Hey, it's Ioana. I'm just about to get organized for my very last semester of undergrad. I'm studying commerce at Queen's University and it's Tuesday right now, so it's the second day of the semester. The way that I set up for a new semester is really quite straightforward, and I'm going to walk you through what I do. I use OneNote for my notes, Todoist for task management. I've migrated over from my bullet journal, although I still use this primarily because it's handy to be able to take notes down and tasks down even in-person settings, as well as my physical notebook, and this is very handy for discussion-based courses. This semester for us is partly virtual, so we are starting it for the first 2 months online, so I'll be in Zoom lectures, and then after that they're hoping to bring us back in person and on campus. So I'm currently on campus anyways. Last semester was in person, which was pretty fun given it's my last year of university. So we'll see how that goes this year. So let's get started. I'm going to start with OneNote. And by the way, this is a Chrome extension. It's called Momentum. And I'll go ahead and open OneNote. It's actually the desktop version. There's also a Windows version of OneNote. I personally don't like this version. I don't know, I guess I'm a little bit stuck in the old ways, but it's a little like bigger. It's meant to be more user-friendly, maybe not for this user. So this is a tiny little section of my file explorer, but just for showing you that I actually use OneDrive quite a bit for my documents, just because it uploads to a cloud so that I can access it from my laptop. And OneNote, which is the software I'm using here, is super handy for taking notes, especially when you can annotate onto them. And my laptop is a Windows Surface Pro, and I've also got the pen stylus. So if I were in person, although I even do it sometimes in the Zoom lectures, I have it open in front of me and I can like literally write down on these slides that you see on the screen right now. I also have a OneDrive for my personal account. The only thing is that one is a little bit more limited in space because my Queen's account, my school account, they pay for a lot more storage. I think it's 10 gigabytes or something like that. And then I've got the actual documents on this computer, which are actually very minimal. Most of the stuff I keep on OneDrive because of the backup capabilities, but all of my videos, like I do video editing and stuff, that resides just on this computer. And last thing I'll say about that is I built this computer last year, so it's really fast and I really like it. It's been a game changer, and I've also got a nice monitor set up, so that was a bit of an investment last year when we were in the height of online learning and online work, but I think it'll pay off quite a bit in the long run. So back to this. So I'll create year 4 semester 2, and I guess I have to manually move it up here so that it's in order of when I've taken it. Okay, so now this is an empty notebook. You'll see year 4 semester 1, I actually had groups for each of my courses. And then within the group were the different sections of like lectures, readings, midterm. This worked for me a lot better than what I did in 3rd year, which was to have a section for each course, and then all of the notes were just kind of in chronological order here, and I had like a code. I kind of like using codes, but maybe not in this way. This was a little bit too much. The other thing you'll notice is that I have a folder here called Archived, and unfortunately I'm gonna have to have one again this semester. So what this was for was courses that I originally signed up for and then I dropped. And like kind of as an aside, this is a really useful thing to do when you're in university, especially in upper years, if that's when you get to choose your courses more. I usually sign up for a few more courses than I actually want to take that semester, or than I actually need to. Obviously, I'll start with the 2 courses that I know I am taking already. So I'm going to delete this section because I don't need it. And now we've got, you know, an empty home page and these 2 sections. So I'm going to start with Business Law 2. A lot of the material has been posted for that already. So the way that I set it up here are based on, again, lectures, readings. There might be some cases, but I'm not sure yet. So let's take a look. This is the Smith School of Business e-learning portal. This is where all of our course materials get posted. And I'm going to go to Content. And I'm really just going to scroll through everything. First of all, the syllabus, and then starting with class 1, 2, and 3, and get a feel for how the course is structured and put that into my OneNote.
A few moments later.
So far, I really like how this course is organized. We've got PowerPoints and key concepts. I think it's posted before Yeah, so I guess it's posted before each lecture. I'm going to import those into my OneNote anyways. There might be slightly different sections along the top depending on how the course is formatted. I'll show you how I actually take a PowerPoint and put it into OneNote because there are a few little tips there. So you don't need to save it or anything. Right now it's just in my downloaded folder, and sometimes I like to save them to the folder that I have the course in, but ultimately if it's in your OneNote, it's a lot easier to search because then I just go up here at the top and search this section or this document or this notebook, and it actually reads the PowerPoints that have been imported as well. So when it comes time to do an exam that's open book, I can search for a concept and it'll pop up everywhere that it was shown. So for printing something like this, I want to send it to my OneNote desktop app. This was the app I showed you earlier, so I like using this one. And then print all slides, full page slides, scale to fit. I don't think all of that stuff really matters. The only thing is you sometimes might have to go to printer properties and just make sure it's set to landscape. So it's a little bit of trial and error, but this is usually what does it if your printouts are coming out like 90-degree angled. So we'll see how that goes. It takes a few seconds, this starts to light up, and then I have to choose where I'm gonna put it. So I want it to go right here. And there you go. So that's how I've imported it. For PDFs as well, same thing. Especially if they're PowerPoints that are converted to PDF format, you might need to set the orientation to be landscape rather than portrait. Depending what the professor regularly posts on their course page, so along this side, it might be too complicated for me to always look up like which class number it is or which date it is. So a good example is here. This professor always posted the PowerPoints for which week it was, but then the readings were just kind of posted on a shared like online folder or database, but it didn't say which class date it was. So I just kind of linked the class number to the content that I was supposed to read for it. And so these are just like empty headings. And then these are the actual things that we had to read and annotated, as I mentioned, using my Surface Pro laptop. And then the lectures here, these are just kind of the PowerPoints also annotated like this. And then these were other folders that they kind of come up as you do the course. So let's go back here. In this particular class, we have 2 video classes per week. So I'm gonna end up having like one a date and one another date. Same thing goes for Word docs. I'll show you how this works. I really try and minimize any like extra work. So this type of Word document might not actually turn out to be helpful for me to import every single week, but I'll just do it this week anyways. So again, print. This one doesn't need to be landscape because it's already portrait. So I might actually have selected the wrong thing already, but we'll see. So nope, that looks like it worked. And since it's a summary of the first lecture, it still goes under lectures, and I'll just put it right here. This second class might be more interesting. So here, content to prepare, lecture materials, and questions and problems for discussion. So it looks like the stuff that I have to do, I'll put that into Todoist, but the lecture materials, I'll import the PowerPoint again. So far, I'm just putting in everything that's on the course website to OneNote, and I'm trying to get a sense of like how his organization works and what sort of content I'm gonna have to do and like read every single week before class, after class, and so on. And I've also taken a look at the syllabus to see how we're graded in this course, and it turns out that both the midterm and the final exam are open book, and we may also have a couple of fact pattern assignments and an essay to write. Ultimately, what that means is I'm going to be referencing my notes quite a bit, and they need to be very searchable and easy to organize. So for example, I'm just looking through this, and it looks like it's a note that goes along with this PowerPoint, which is actually a really cool idea. I really like it when professors are organized with their course content as well and like provide extra resources like this. So this will actually go a lot better under here. And again, I'm thinking about how I might be studying this material later on, and it'll be convenient for me to have the summaries associated with the lectures that they go with. Same with readings. If, for example, we had cases in this class, or if we had a few questions on this document, I would put that right under here. It's also helpful when I'm going through the course So for week 1, I know I have to look through like what are the lectures we're going to be talking about this week. And then in terms of material I'm going to have to do that week, I just go here under readings and I do everything that is under week 1. So this will end up being, for example, 1, this will be like a heading and this will be underneath there. This might also be there. So everything I need to read will be here, including maybe some videos. And if there was a video, I would link that in here. It gets embedded in OneNote, and then I would take a few notes so that when I'm in class, I have something to reference, especially if I've done those readings like a week in advance, which rarely happens, but let's say I did. The number one thing that helps in commerce courses I've found is being prepared. So it might seem like everyone in the class has these amazing things to say and it's like on the spur of the moment, but 9 times out of 10, it's not. They've prepared in advance. So that's what I try to do as well. And having things laid out here with my notes easily accessible where it makes sense is how I stay on top of that stuff. Some profs, they organize their homepage by class 1, class 2, class 3, and other ones do like week 1, week 2, week 3. Some profs even, when it comes to reading break, that's extra fun because sometimes the reading break counts for a week and sometimes it's just skipped entirely and the next week is the regular, usually class week 6. So that's a thing that will be different, I think, from some of my other classes where they go by week. Alright, so I've imported all of the content up to week 3 just to get started. So it looks like for tomorrow's class, the content to prepare is read chapter 17 in the textbook. So that just goes under readings for the date that it's due. So that'll be for week 2. It also looks like we have some optional content. So something I like doing there is putting a star in front of content that is not optional. So this is mandatory content. And then even just from looking at this, it looks like this document is actually a lecture material that will probably be referenced in class. So I'm going to put that under there. And then it looks like we have some questions and problems for discussion. So I'm trying to figure out if that would go under lectures or readings. So here, this is actually a great example where I'm not thinking about where it would fit categorically, but I'm thinking about where it would make sense to get the work done. So I'm just going to take a look at my textbook and see what type of questions those are. So this is it. I was so excited to actually purchase this book. A lot of textbooks I just keep online. Not a lot of my classes really heavily reference the textbook, but this one does. So I have this from part 1 of the course, and this is part 2. Okay, interesting. So the questions are really kind of like reading questions, like what is a power of attorney? Is a real estate agent a true agent? Stuff like that. And the problems, these ones seem to be scenarios. So I will need to prepare these. I think probably less so the questions, more so the problems, so that I have something to contribute. So I think I'll actually put it right under here. The discussion questions will probably be sort of like this on the right margin of my OneNote. Another thing I love about OneNote is that you can put items anywhere on the page. Okay, so that's it for setting up the OneNote for this class, but I just want to show you Google Calendar, the next thing I'll do here. And I'm only highlighting my school calendar and my school tasks. These tasks here are actually in Todoist, so I can just show you real quick view source. It was created in Todoist and it's scheduled for tomorrow. I can just check it off, that's why it's here. The nice thing about syncing them is, like synchronizing them, is I can move them around. So I can do this that day instead, or this day. And I really like having that. I can just kind of see a list of what's here. Different from my bullet journal is mainly the fact that I can reorganize these really quickly. And it's just really nice for planning ahead like an entire week. If it looks like I have too many things to do on Wednesday, I can just kind of rejig them rather than rewriting them every time. And I found that with bullet journaling, I kind of had to constantly think about my priorities, whereas here I can just figure them out once, even 2-3 days ahead of time, and just know that that's what I have to do that day. For Google Calendar, the only thing I wanted to do here is put in my class times. This was COM 382, and I'm gonna copy it to my school calendar. The gray stuff is actually a synchronized Queen's calendar from my Solus. Essentially, it gets pulled straight from the portal where I chose my classes. So these are the ones I'm currently signed up for, and they're gonna disappear when I drop those classes. So I'm just putting it here so that it's on my own school calendar. The E and the O are basically events, and O is like a task box. I chose O so that it would come after E because these are alphabetical order. So that's it for that, and then I'll go to my school tasks in Todoist, which is this one. And I've essentially organized this by, this is a project in Todoist. I'll show you what the menu looks like. You've got inbox, everything you have to do today, upcoming, filters and labels. I've sort of created 3 filters. And then for labels, these are like types of tasks to do. I don't find that I've used this too often, but it's kind of handy if, for example, you just want to see all the readings you have to do. And all you have to do, there's some handy typing tricks. So if you do @ it opens up your labels. If you do /, you can sort it into another category within that same project. If you do hashtag, it shows you all of your categories. Oh yeah, and then it's also smart on language. So if you do tomorrow, it'll set the date to tomorrow, which is really cool. You can also do every Friday. What I was just saying here is that there are 5 projects you can have on the free version of Todoist. I don't currently want to pay for the full version, so I just have a project called School Tasks, and then underneath these are called sections, 1 section for every course. And when it synchronizes to Google Calendar, it'll just synchronize as school tasks. And so for that reason, when I'm putting in tasks into Todoist, I need to write which section, basically which course it's a part of first. And then I do a dash. And so this is essentially how I've coded these tasks because they're all gonna be pink when I synchronize. The purpose for this isn't so much Todoist, because on Todoist it shows you down here. So I don't really need to write that second email, but I do it so that I can see it on Google Calendar if I'm working from there on one particular day. It's a lot more of a visual way to view your tasks rather than this way. And then lastly, the other part of like the way I've coded things is these 2 exclamation marks are deadlines. And then that's my like hard-coded way of doing it. And then the Todoist version is I just put a tag called deadline school. I also have deadline personal for like job applications and stuff like that. And so these are actually separate. So I had to do this tag, and then I also had to do this. So that's what I mean by hard coding versus using the Todoist feature. So let's get started with inputting tasks. To keep things simple, so 382 is the course, prep, and that's the hard-coded version, and then I think I also have a prep. And which week is it? It's January 13th, but I'll put class number 2. If you tap on it, it'll get rid of the tag on that and put it on the other one. This I consider to be the deadline, so if I do this before Thursday, great, I check it all off. Now let's see if there's anything else underneath that. I've got for class 2, these 2 things to do. I think it'll be convenient to actually have these written into my Todoist. And then these ones, they don't have dates, so they don't show up in my Google Calendar, which actually is quite convenient for the time being because I don't want them to show up. But if I wanted to schedule them, for example, I wanted to do all of these things tomorrow. So in this case, this is why I have that system. So here it just says questions. So if I were using my Google Calendar to reorganize things and, you know, see what I have to do, I don't know what these questions are for. So in that case, this would actually need to say 382 read. I don't know, I think putting the 2 is kind of unnecessary, but I'll do it anyways for now. So there you go. Now I'm just gonna refresh this and show you how that updated. It's a lot easier to see like what I have to do here, and keeping in mind that this is the heading task. If this was a deadline, for example, like an assignment to hand in, I would have put 2 exclamation points there. And since it's got 2 exclamation points, I know not to move it around because then it messes up when I know what the deadline is. And the nice thing there is if it was a deadline and I check it off, everything gets checked off. So that's how I stay organized with school. If you're doing this like all at once, it goes a lot faster because you just kind of put in everything real quick. And then the last thing I'm gonna do is just put in the things that I'm graded on. So those big deadlines. And if I want to look at all my deadlines, I see them all here. And there you have it. I think that's it. And then my physical notebook. This is probably going to come in handy for this class if I want to just write down like some quick notes of something. I keep it more as an archival notebook. That's how I like to refer to it, because ultimately I do the same exact thing in my bullet journal. Maybe a little bit neater, maybe add some washi tape on top for aesthetic decoration afterwards. It's really like the same function. It's having some paper to write down on and having it in a notebook so that you can reference chronologically what you wrote. And that's it. So I've got my OneNote. I've got my Todoist, my Google Calendar for this course is set up, and then my notebook, there's really nothing to set up there. I use the same note-taking system that I always use. So I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that was helpful. I think that turned out to be quite long, but I'll do my best to cut it out in editing. I recognize it's been a while since I posted. That's one of my big goals for this year. And I've also just started a newsletter, and I highly recommend checking that out if you're interested. It'll be bi-weekly on Sundays, mostly. There's gonna be something interesting called an Idea Cafe feature. So something I want to write about that I think you might enjoy hearing about. Then there will be a Mistral Spirit What's Brewing section. So that's just catching you up with what's new on Instagram, YouTube, and the blog. And then there's going to be Brain Candy. So those are interesting articles I've read, books that I'm currently reading, just like updates, maybe a few photos. I think you'll enjoy it. There's a little bit for everyone. And then lastly, we've got a book club running. So those are the 3 updates from me: YouTube, newsletter, and book club. That's what I'm currently up to on this space, and of course school. So see you later. Have a great semester.